Morning, everyone. This is Russell Rucker, and I'm here for another constitutional talk. A happy Inauguration Day. You know, every 4 years, we gather, we vote, we elect a new president. And on January 20th, which is today, we inaugurate a new leader. The Supreme Court Justice meets with the new president, and he swears him in, giving an oath that is required under the Constitution to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, all elected officials take this oath, from the judges to the House members, Senate members, state officials, all the way down to even police officers. We all swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And we are required to take this oath because of the Constitution. But it does not state who shall give that oath. Now, generally speaking, it is the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, but it hasn't always been that way. And it hasn't always been taking an oath on the Bible. There have been a couple exceptions, the one of which was John Adams, that took an oath on a book of law. And I believe Theodore Roosevelt was another exception during his first term. But it is interesting that the oath itself under the Constitution did not have those words, "So help me God." That's something George Washington said when he was first inaugurated. Now, George Washington had gone home to his plantation, and he had no intention of being president. But the Electoral College elected him unanimously. And when he was told of this and told that the American people wanted him, he said something along the lines that he always respected the American public and he would do what the American public wanted. And so he served 2 terms. Now, January 20th wasn't always Inauguration Day. It used to be in March, but that was all changed via an amendment that we discussed just a couple of weeks back. Now, when George Washington got to the federal building in New York, and he gave an oath on the Bible that was borrowed, actually, from the Masons, I believe. And he took his oath, and then he turned around and he addressed Congress. So he gave the first inauguration address. Now, we've had many inauguration addresses because even if you're reelected, you generally go through the pomp and formality of being re-sworn in. You give a speech. The longest speech was given by our 9th president, William Henry Harrison. Now, William Henry Harrison was elected in the election of 1840. An election that had the slogan, "Tippecanoe and Tyler too." Now, Tippecanoe was a battle that William Henry Harrison had led as governor of his state of Indiana. And so the campaign was basically saying, here's the leader, here's the hero of Tippecanoe and Tyler too, John Tyler. Well, William Henry Harrison didn't live long, primarily because of the inauguration. The weather was real bad. Not quite like like it is today in D.C. It was raining pretty heavy. And honestly, the weather is why they've moved this year's inauguration indoors. The weather that day in 1841 was a pounding rain. And President Harrison, who wanted to address the people, he prepared a 2-hour speech in which he gave in an hour and 45 minutes. I kind of went through some of his speech this morning. I thought it was kind of interesting. He talks about coming out of retirement. He was no longer in elected office, and he ran for the presidency, and he won. And he stood there talking about what he was going to do, and he made a long speech. Most speeches on inauguration day, maybe they last 15, 20 minutes or so. They generally aren't real long-winded as this was. 2 hours is a long time to speak in a pounding, pouring rain. So he gives his address, and he is soaked to the skin. He takes sick. The next morning he has a cold. He develops pneumonia. I kind of like to ask him whether that speech was worth it or not, as he never did anything as president other than lay there for 31 days until he expired. He passed away, and then John Tyler was sworn in, his vice president. Remember, Tippecanoe and Tyler too. And he was the first president, John Tyler was, to take over from a president who had passed away while in office. And he became our 10th president. Inauguration Day can be thought of in a special way, a celebratory way. It depends on which side you're on and who you supported in the election, and whether you can actually accept the new president or not. You might be in a state of depression. You might be exuberantly happy. But each president's job initially is to unite the country and bring the country together. We've had a long campaign. We've had a bitter campaign possibly. And the president's job is to try to unite the country and bring us together and work for the good of the republic. Work to achieve your program that you ran on. And that's why generally, if you've won, you generally have coattails. You generally, as they say, you have some political will that you can spend to get your program through. And so the first 100 days or so, you have a honeymoon period. This is generally how things happen. That's why they always look to what did you accomplish in the first 100 days. So January 20th at noon, the old administration is no longer in power, and the new administration takes over, the new president. The president, it says in our Constitution, it says in the Constitution that a president shall serve for a term of 4 years together with his vice president. And this shall begin at noon on January 20th. And that's what our Constitution says today. Originally, it was in March because of the dictates of the Congress of the Confederation, and I believe it was in August or September of 1788, prior to Washington being informed, and the whole process of an election and the Electoral College meeting and Congress coming together, counting the ballots of the electors, and then they swear in the president a couple weeks later. It took a while for Washington back then and traveling on horse to get up to New York to be sworn in. But now we have our capital in Washington, D.C., which is a little more centrally located, but you can fly in from anywhere today. I hope you enjoy the festivities today, and I hope you think a little about why we do what we do here, why we give the oath, why the oath has to be administered, and why we do things the way we do, and the changing of the guard, the changing of the administration, the smooth change of power, which is important in any government, especially in a republic like ours. Thank you for your time today. We'll catch you next week on the next Constitutional Talk. Goodbye for now.